This talk contains references to domestic violence. Please advise. Ebenezer was 3, adopted yesterday, and he was getting yelled at in a language that he didn't even speak. He cried, "I want mama," in his native language, to which I spoke none of. I held him in my arms, and I bounced him up and down as his tears dried my yellow shirt. I hummed "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" to him as his cries for mama bellowed yet again in a language that I did not know. Taken away from his schizophrenic mother yesterday and held in the child welfare office overnight, without his knowing, without his word, and without his own autonomy over his own life. Tanzania is home to over 59 million people. Nearly half of the population lives below the poverty line, and over 44% of the population is under the age of 15. 3 million children are orphans, a number that excludes the children in homes of domestic violence and unreported orphans and children in need. In the summer of 2025, I traveled to Karatu, Tanzania. 45 minutes away from the nearest paved road, in the mountains of the Ngorongoro Crater Forest, surrounded by a coffee plantation, is Rifty. The Rift Valley Children's Village, or Rifty as I call it, is an orphanage for over 135 children. Rifty's model is that they operate as a forever family, which means, unlike most orphanages, after a child reaches the age of 18, they continue to look out for them in hopes that they don't land on the streets. While I was there, my days consisted of waking up at 5 to help the kids get ready for school. They would do their chores, mop the floor, pick up the leaves outside the house, and clean their clothes. They were the lucky ones in Tanzania. They had electricity and running water, a foreign concept to their classmates. They were seen as the privileged ones. Dropping these kids off at school, the smiles and laughs from every kid always made me notably happy. At their school, most of their classmates finished their often nearly 10-mile walk to school. Once you get to school, despite their exhaustive journey, after being in the dark, each of them arrive with a beaming smile on their faces and initiate a hello. They ask you your name and ask you how you are. If you are like me listening and you're wondering how is it possible that they are smiling after a 10-mile walk to school, after waking up in the dark, you are not alone, and I ask myself that question each day that I was there. During the day, I taught English to preschoolers, and at night, I tutored the older kids. Every night we walked back from the library to their homes, we would look up at the sky and see the Milky Way. These kids weren't any different from Americans, despite what I had initially thought. They, like many of us college kids, were obsessed with selfies and loved taking slow-motion videos and procrastinating on their schoolwork. Tanzania itself is a place where absenteeism is the top concern amongst schools. The second is legitimately that the kids will get stomped on by an elephant and killed by a buffalo on their way to school. In the area where I was, about 70% of the students do not pass their national exams to go to secondary school. Most parents, if a child has one, pull their children from school to work in the coffee fields because it is simply more productive for their families to be able to afford food that week than to let their child learn in school. In our knowledge economy, I think that sets and depicts the inequality of our education system quite perfectly to me. No money translates to fewer opportunities to leave poverty. After investing hours of care into children who have no parents, hearing about their traumatic backgrounds, and seeing their smiling faces made me especially perplexed. I felt such deep concern thinking about these kids' futures and whether or not they would be able to avoid long-term trauma. With the arms of one of my 3-year-olds wrapped around my leg, looking up at me with his glittering eyes, he asked me, "Amanda, when are you coming back?" with a smile gleaming from cheek to cheek. To look an orphan in the eye who already has psychological damage from being left on the front stoops of a police station, you feel hopeless. I wanted to do something so badly. I wished so deeply in that moment that I could fix the horror in this world. Helplessly reminding myself that solving the world's most complex problems is nearly impossible, I grappled with what to say and what to do, and I realized that so much of the harm in our world comes from a lack of understanding or a lack of willingness to dig deeper and understand someone. There are the basics, as you probably already know. Listen, learn, observe, engage in a conversation with somebody, or ask them about their hobbies. Make an effort to bring people up and acknowledge their presence with an obnoxious hello when you walk into a building. I would argue that this concept of recognition does not apply to children who have been adopted or children in rural poverty in sub-Saharan Africa. It actually applies to everyone. And honestly, in my experience in undergrad, college students frankly need it most. Too often, it is after the fact of someone leaving this earth that we say, I wish I told them how much I love them. As we often hear, you never know what the people around us are going through, but how many of us have actually taken a step to act before it's too late? Showing up, showing care, and showing compassion is one of the greatest privileges that we have as people. In college, we are consumed by jobs, internships, grades, extracurriculars, the tasks we have to do on the daily. We lose track of reminding ourselves that we are all on this earth for no purpose other than to exist. Show one another who you are. Acknowledge someone in the hallway. Your purpose here is more than just to get grades and to land a job. Ebenezer was not the only one rescued in my time at the Tanzanian Children's Fund. Before him was the day that I met 4 other kids, each from one mother. On that day that they were adopted, their mother accompanied them. I was just as confused as you were. The car pulled up, and the 20 kids in the classroom that I was teaching sat on the front stoops, and we celebrated their arrival. We were thrilled. The mother was thrilled too, and I was distraught by that. I couldn't understand why you would want to move your children away from an experience. Those were your kids. It seems really weird that you would want to give them up. But perhaps this would be a nod to me being just a naive college student without children, and my own privilege and how I couldn't see the value of relief in letting go of the burden of taking care of 4 children while this mother was taking care of her own self and trying to raise her own self. However, instantly sobering to me were the scars on these kids' faces from their home of domestic violence, the ringworm in their feet, from the lack of sanitation in the dirty tent that they lived under. And most of all, was the looks of confusion and terror in their eyes. I couldn't help but wonder, what were they thinking? Where was I? What was I doing here? What is this place? And who is that person that does not have black skin? That was me, the white blonde girl from Connecticut, the American in the hills of Karatu, contributing to this white savior complex that I have learned so much about. I was the first white person these kids had ever seen. The oldest had been the father figure of the household at the age of 8, and at the age of 8 and severely malnourished, he was cooking and cleaning for his 3 younger siblings while his mother worked. His mother gave birth to him when he was 13, and his older brother at 15, younger brother at 15, each with a different father. Not only was the eldest raising his siblings and himself, but he was raising his mother too. These kids were now in healthier hands at Rifty, but this was only 4 of 3 million children in Tanzania in need of safety and education and care. I, and I hope you too, worry about the remaining 3 million other children that are in the homes and in the valleys that we don't know about. I believe in the power of connection and teamwork to support people to become their best selves and to ultimately leave a life of purpose and generosity. No child should be born into a family home of violence or harm, but that continues to happen whether we attempt to control it or not. What we can control is offering more safe places for kids to get emotional and physical support that they can get in order to lead lives that are free of violence in generations to come. Perhaps what was most striking to me was how happy these kids were. Their backgrounds were deeply tragic, and it seemed unfathomable to me that they could lead lives of such happiness. They smile, hug, and procrastinate on their schoolwork just as all kids do. The reality is that there are those kids in our classrooms at Colby too, struggling through each day, masked by a smile. Each hour they are here, they are suffering. In the midst of so much horror, there's a question of how do we begin to be unhappy in this world? What I've come to know is that our experiences shape us and how we feel in this world. That's a basic psychological understanding, and that's Psych 101. Most psychologists of happiness may credit resilience as the primary factor for cultivating happiness because of the satisfaction that emerges as a result of it. You work hard, and then you feel good about yourself and as a result. But why is resilience and the grit needed to persevere just so damn hard sometimes? Why is life so unfair? And are our experiences all out of our control? We learn what disappointment is by the nature of where we live and who we speak to and what we were born into. What our surroundings have taught us about understanding success or failure is what shapes our relationship to ourselves and what influences our happiness, because we understand right and wrong based on what we grew up around as a result of our environments. In the United States college student world, we begin to think of ourselves as happy or unhappy because we associate right and wrong with our pre-existing ideologies. Don't get me wrong, there's much that complicates this ideology, but the truth is we have the opportunity each day to make someone's experience on this microcosm of planet Earth just a little bit better. No child nor you can control the family that they are born into, but we have the opportunity to help one another construct our own understandings of right and wrong, which can in effect help one another cultivate a better relationship with happiness or defeat and make a happier world. As I attempt to tie all of my various events at the village together, I think about one night at the village when we were coming from Prepis, which AKA is just Tanzanian for study hall. As the kids tried to pickpocket me for my phone to take selfies on, one of the kids paused and tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Amanda, look," and he pointed up to the sky. "Are those the same stars that you see in America?" As I leave you today, I encourage you to think about the world beyond the mundane. Consider your life beyond the boundaries of your homework, your job you want to land, the internship you want to secure, or the boyfriend that you want to have. Remind yourself that all of us are just dots on this planet Earth, looking for a place to be satisfied, staring at the same stars as every other person on the planet. I hate a cheesy line, but I must say the irony of Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars being the song that came to my mind as I carried Ebenezer in my arms feels especially prominent to what I leave behind. Remind yourself why you're here and what you bring, but even more importantly, remind someone else why they are here too. We have a choice to care for one another, and I, similar to Bell Hooks, believe that change is in the recognition that you give a child. I believe that if you can change someone's day, you can change a person. And if you can change a person, you can change a classroom. And if you can change a classroom, you can change the world. I know, brave to ask, but try it out. Don't be afraid to spread your wings and shine your light. I think you will be surprised as to how much happier you will feel in response to making someone else's day on this earth just a little bit better.